Good afternoon and welcome to one more webinar from Telric India. We have been doing these webinars every Thursday, 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. We used to be 3 p.m. to 4 p.m., but we have kind of preponed the time so that we can, get our friends from Singapore, Malaysia, in all those regions. So we are doing it now at 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. India Standard Time. Thank you very much for joining us. I see a lot of people today. Looks like ASP.NET MVC is one of the hot topics for the developers. Today, I'm going to be talking about custom HTML helpers in ASP.NET MVC. Just give me a second. Looks like my mouse snapped. Okay, there you go. So if you haven't, you know, uh, by now, if you're not a regular to our webinars, you wouldn't know me. But if you are a regular, you would have known this or you've seen this slide many a times. My name is Lohit Jian. I work as a technical evangelist with Telerik in India. I'm also Microsoft MVP in the area of ASP.NET and IIS. That's my official email ID, lohit.nagaraj@telerik.com. If you need to know anything about Telerik products, I'm the man in India, so just write to me. I'll be able to help you out. And that's my Twitter handle @Kashyapa. So if you are on Twitter, you can tweet to me. And kashyapas.com is my personal website where I mostly write on ASP.NET. Telrichelper.net is another website where myself and my colleagues, we keep writing on these webinars and how do you do certain things with Telric products and all those things. Our global website is www.teleric.com. Okay, so I had a 3-point agenda for today. I always try to keep it very simple, very up to the point. So today we're going to be talking about understanding HTML helpers. Then take a look at the standard helpers that are available in ASP.NET MVC. And we'll also we'll end the webinar by taking a look at how do you write a custom HTML helper, right? So to understand HTML helper, so if you have coming from ASP.NET Web Forms, you never had this concept called HTML helper. Oh, what the hell is this, right? In fact, in ASP.NET Web Forms, whatever control you do with ASP::label or ASP::text box or ASP::grid view, those are all kind of HTML helper. For example, if you take ASP::label and then say text is equal so and so, what it does is on the client side, when it renders, when the page is rendered, it is going to go and then put label and then whatever text you had put. If you had used ASP::text box, text is equal to hello, well, that will be converted into input type is equal to text, value is equal to hello, right? So in fact, it's kind of a helper. In ASP.NET MVC, there is no concept of controls at all, right? I know, I hope everybody understands ASP.NET MVC here. That's why you are here. So as you know, there's nothing called as a control per se. Well, you will have to type out everything, HTML tags, you do the attributes on the HTML tags, so everything you need to type it out. Whereas the ASP.NET Web Forms guys, they just say ASP::text box, text is equal to so-and-so, color is equal to so-and-so, whatever like that. And then it kind of renders the appropriate HTML tag. So what Microsoft did was when it brought out or when it came out with ASP.NET MVC, they did know that, okay, this is going to be the problem. That is, since it's an MVC and then the MVC views are all plain HTML, well, people will or developers will tend to write most of the HTML tags by themselves. It doesn't look good because you will be typing a lot of tags. HTML is all about tags, right? So you'll be writing a lot of those tags. So what do we do? So what they said was, okay, let's give HTML helpers for typical HTML tags or typical HTML things that you need to do day in and day out within your views. Let's do something called as helpers. Okay, so that's how MVC got these things called HTML helpers. What are they? Those are nothing but methods that return strings, right? At the end of the day, what goes in the wire, there's a famous saying that we call, right, over the wire. What do you mean by that? So over the wire is nothing but the internet communication that happens. Your browser, you go to your browser, you say http:// some domain slash maybe customers, and then after a second you will get back the HTML displayed on the browser. But over the wire, that is the communication that happened was your browser went to the server and said, I want you to give me that particular page called customers, and then the server sends the text, the textual format, right? So everything that you need to show on a browser need to come as a text, and everything that you need to show on the browser needs to be the valid HTML tags. So these helpers, what they do is when the page is rendered, that is the server is about to send the response, the page is created. And then if you have all these helpers in your pages, all these helpers do is they just return a string. That's it. So what do you need to use this, right? It avoids the tedious typing of HTML tags. If your UI is heavy in terms of a lot of HTML tags, so you will have to type it out. Instead of that, you can just say @HTML dot label, @HTML dot text box. So you are kind of you do not have to type the whole lesser than input, type is equal to text, value is equal to so and so. Instead, you just say @HTML dot text box, @HTML dot label, and then render any content using helper. So inside the helper, I could put any of the contents that I can keep it. So we'll actually take a look at the default template that comes up, and then we'll see the way Microsoft or out of the box, what are the templates that you get. Okay, standard helpers in ASP.MVC. Now we understood why there was an ASP, the HTML helpers, or why are the HTML helpers available in ASP.NET MVC, right? So now let's take a look at some of the standard helpers in MVC. Well, now you will be familiar. Oh, this is what we are talking about, right? You do these things day in and day out in your ASP.NET MVC views, like HTML.label, HTML.label for, text box for, sorry, there's a typo, duplication, drop down list for, and many other things, right? These are known as the standard HTML helpers that are available out of the box in the ASP.NET MVC world. Basically, it's nothing got to do with the browser things or anything. These are the developmental things. That is, within Visual Studio, when you're developing ASP.NET MVC, Microsoft has already developed or coded these standard HTML helpers for you. So that's why when you say file new ASP.NET MVC and then you want to start using some things, you can just say @HTML, and then you get all the standard HTML helpers. That's why it's kind of speeding up your development time, speeding up your productivity. Your productivity increases because you otherwise, if you had a select box and you had to bind it to, let's say, a particular model's value, and then a list of strings or whatever it is. So the way you would do it is you will write the select tag, and then you will say for each item in this particular list, output the option tag. Instead, now what happens is you just say @HTML drop down list, and then you will give the list of values, and then the helper will automatically do that. So that's what this whole concept of standard HTML helpers is all about. So now I think it's a good time to get to the demo part. So let me see what I have. So I'm using a Visual Studio 2015, and you can do this with Visual Studio 2013 or 2012, whatever version of Visual Studio you have. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm just going to say create a new project. I'm going to select .NET Framework 4.6 and ASP.NET Web Application. And let's say I want to create this in this, and then I'm going to call this as custom HTML helpers demo, just to give the webinar name. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just select the ASP.NET MVC template. Notice that we also have ASP.NET 5, but I'm not talking about ASP.NET 5 today, but we are still in the ASP.NET 4 kind of stuff. So these are the vNext, or the next version of ASP.NET, which is MVC 6. There's a lot of confusion going on. So I'm going to select an MVC, and then I say OK. So what Visual Studio is going to do is it's going to create me the standard ASP.NET MVC project, and we'll have this typical controllers, views, models folder, and we're going to take a look at a couple of pages where the standard HTML helpers have been used. So let's give it a couple of seconds, because I'm running a lot of things on my machine, and it looks like CPU is not giving much time to my Visual Studio. I have the GoToMeeting recording going on. I have the PowerPoint running. Okay, there we go. And by the way, this is what you get to see if you are creating ASP.NET, MVC4 or MVC5 based templates. That is from Visual Studio 2013 onwards. They are now coming up with this README. It's known as Project README. It says this application consists of sample pages, theming using Bootstrap, authentication, ASP.NET features managed using NuGet. This is how you can customize your app. This is how you deploy. If you need more help, here you go. I love this feature because you as a developer now you can typically see what are the things that I have in my application. Where should I go? How should I customize? All those things are in this particular page. So let me close out all of this and let me show you a live zoom here. So as you can see here, we have the controllers, typical account manager managing an account, and then home controller. Then you have the model. So I have the identity model, account view model, manage view model. And if you look at the views, we have the account where I have a login account, login screen. I have the register screen, and we also have confirm email and all those things. So let's take a look at the login register screen. Okay, so here is the register screen. So let me increase the font a little bit. And what you see here is, I'm not sure why is it, okay. I hope the font is right for you guys. So if you see here, I'm saying this particular page is working on a typed model called register view model. So so now this view is a strongly typed view because it knows what its model is. And take a look at this using html.begin form, right? I'm just saying the form name is register. This is, let's check the syntax. Okay, what happened to my backspace? Hang on, I'm having a keyboard issue. Uh, Come on. Okay, you can see here, begin from the action name, the controller name, the form method, and then HTML attributes. So by just doing this, what happens is basically it will go out and then put up the form, action is equal to so and so, method is equal to so and so, and then any class that I need to put on the form or whatever the role, all those things. So basically this is the action name that you're seeing here. So as you can see, begin form. And you also see this HTML.anti-forgery token. So basically it makes sure that your form, when it was rendered and then when it is submitted, nobody hijacked in between. So basically there's a token that is kept on the form, and then the server side will actually check the token. So what you're seeing here, the @HTML dot and then begin form, anti-forgery, validation summary, label for. Somebody was asking what's a label for, difference between label and label for. If I come in and then say label for and then provide a lambda expression here which says m.email, so that means I want you to write an label for this field called email. So it will say label for is equal to email, and then put a text called email. So that's the difference between a label. In the label, you can just output any arbitrary text. Here I need a label called email. So I just have to say label and then give the property to which I want to generate that label. Similarly, I want a text box and its name has to be email. So if you see here, I'm just saying text box for and then all those things. So this is typically what you would have seen in your projects. I'm pretty sure you're not gone beyond this particular the HTML helpers, right? So let me just run this for a moment now, and then we'll see. We'll take a look at this register page. I love this diagnostic tool that's coming up in the Visual Studio 2015. As you can see, this is one of the features in 2015. You have the memory footprint, you have the CPU usage coming up, so you can pretty much take a look at everything, within your Visual Studio. Let me close that. And okay, I think I did something here. I'm not sure what I did. It is saying missing the corresponding so and so. So I have 2 at the left. No, I have 3 at the left. So I just have to put this guy, and I hope he'll be happy. Oh, I added an extra. Okay. I'm not sure why this guy is not deleting from here. Extremely sorry about that. I have a keyboard and a mouse problem going on, so just give me a second. Let me. Don't snap on me, Visual Studio. Come on. Just give me a second. I'm having a. Uh, ah, Let me kill my Visual Studio. Just give me a second. Sorry about that. I'm not sure. This is an RC. I haven't updated my uh, Visual Studio. I'm still running RC. Looks like it's having some problems. Just give me a second. Yeah, just shut it down, save it, and let me open it back again. Sorry about that. Looks like RC on my system is little flaky, so sorry about that. So the mistake I had done was, okay, let it load completely. Now my mouse is back, and I believe that should do it. This is going to be looking at or coming up with the typical whatever ASP.MVC thing you have. Ah, I'm not sure what mistake it did. Uh, yeah, so everything looks fine. Begin form. Okay. There we go. So sorry about that. I don't know what I did, and then it just snapped on me. So basically, if you take a look at your view, whatever you're done here, so the validation summary. So now if I go and then click on it, take a look at what happens. The email field is required, the password field is required. Not only that, if you notice here, I just said HTML label for, and then I say email, and then a text box for, and then email. So if you see here, there is a label, there is the text box. So if we take a look at the view source, and this is typically what you will get. It will say label for is equal to email and then email. So for is equal to email is nothing but the label is for which control. So we have an input here, and the name or the ID of that particular input will be email, and then value of course is an empty because I haven't typed anything yet. So data-val.email and then data-val, these are all the HTML5 the validation things. So that's how the validation summary works now. It uses the jQuery unobtrusive validation now. So this is how you typically do or use your standard out of the box uh, the HTML helper. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the home view and go to the index. I'm going to remove everything. It has a jumbotron, all those things. I'm going to remove everything. And the problem statement that I want to make here is okay, now we are jumping into creating custom HTML helpers. Okay, so this is where the real meat of the webinar starts now. So my problem statement is, let's assume that you want to use a video control of the HTML5, right? HTML5, one of the greatest thing or the best thing that have happened in HTML5 is, this concept called video tag. So you don't need any plugins now. You just create a video tag, and then all the browsers are supposed to play without any plugins, any code, all those things. So typically when you create a video tag, you need to say video controls is equal to controls. If I need a controls on the video, then I need to say an ID, maybe my video 1. Then I need to have a width. Let's say I need a 200. Then I need a height. maybe 200, and then of course I need to provide an MP4 source file. So what I will do now is to just keep it simple, I have a video available in my PC. If you go to videos folder, you will have this funny video called Big Fat Bunny or something like that. So I'm going to take that video, keep it in the root folder, just to keep it simple. I don't want to make it too complex here. So now what I can do is I can just come back here and then say like movie underscore, oh, where did I go? Movie underscore BBB MP4, right? But the way video tag works is if you have a WebM format or if you have a OGV format, you can actually provide that too. So the browser will actually now look at whatever source it understands and then will pick it up. I think IE understands MP4, he will going to pick up that. Chrome will look for WebM, so he will pick up WebM like that. So basically it's now you just provide different formats and browser will pick it up. So in my case, I don't have the WebM and OGV, but I'm going to just do this, right? So now this is fine. So if I run this page, you're going to see the video coming up. It will have, it will have the, what do you call, the video, and it will show the controls on the video. It is going to be 200 by 200 because I said width is 200, height is 200, right? Nothing great in that. Right, so there you go. So we have the video. This is the control I can click on, and then I don't know if GoToMeeting will play the video. You should see it as a lagging or screen by snapshot by snapshot. So this is how you place a video tag. But notice how much I have to type, right? Wouldn't it be easy if I just said video and I just say like my video one, and all I don't have WebM and OGV. I don't want to provide that, and I just want to say movie underscore BBB dot MP4, right? And then of course I want to give maybe a width of 200, and then maybe a height of 200, and I want to say if I need the controls or not, right? So this is how I would love to do that, right? So that's the problem statement now. How do you go ahead and then create your own custom helper? So the first way to do that is, let's say within your page, what you can do is you can just go in and say @helper and say video, and let me come back. Let me kind of, oh, we lost the video tag. Okay, hang on a minute. So I'm going to do a video tag, copy these guys up here. So what we are creating now is a local helper. So now the video tag needs a string ID, then it also needs an MP4 path, and I'm assuming not many people will have a WebM path, so I will say WebM path is equal to null, and then also maybe not many people will have a OGV, maybe, I don't know. Just I'm kind of programming defensively, so I will say null, and then bool controls is equal to, I'll just say, yeah, maybe you always need the controls. Need controls is what we'll do. And no, I'll keep this as controls or whatever. And true, and then of course I have an int width. I'll always set it to 200 if you don't provide, and then int height is equal to 200. I'm just setting it to 200. So let me kind of, I'm going to do this as need controls. That's fine. And this is how I've done that. Right now, the first thing that I need to do is, in order to put this controls thingy, I will say where controls string is equal to string.empty. Next, what I'm going to do is if need controls, then we're going to say control string is equal to, so usually this is how the spec says, so you need to say controls. Okay, so I'm going to do that. Then I know for sure that I need an ID here, so I know ID has been passed, so I will say @ID, and then I need to put the control string here, right? And of course we need the width, so I will say @width, and I need the height, so I will say @height. Now notice what we can do now. So what we can do now is we can say if string at the rate if not string dot is null or empty mp4 path, then I can go and then output this mp4, right? And then all I need to replace is I just need to replace this with mp4 path. Similarly, all the if conditions for all the other guys, right? I'm gonna do this instead of mp4 here, it will be webm. Then I will have webm path. Similarly, I will have, so I'm going to say ogv, and here we'll just replace this guy with ogv path, right? So what we did was we just encapsulated everything, made it a helper called video. Now I can come back here, instead of controls I have to say need controls, right? You notice how I have done this. So this is known as named parameter. So I have said if somebody passes a value for need controls, use that. If somebody does not pass a value for need controls, by default it is true, right? So now I can come back here. If I need 200 by 200, I can just do this, right? I can just say at the rate video my video one movie underscore bbb dot mp4. So let's run this now. Are we already running? Oh yeah, okay. There we go. So I just have created a local helper. Now what I'm going to do is, notice it is 200 by 200. What if I want width to be like, let's say 400, and then let's say I want the height to be 300, right? Now let me refresh the page, and you notice that the height and the width have kind of changed. So this is what the power of helpers are for you in ASP.NET MVC. If you have a repeating things that needs to be done, you should make them as a helper. Now we have a problem. In my project, let's say I have tens of pages, and then all the page needs to use a video tag like this, right? So by creating a @video helper inside this index.cshtml, now this helper is available only for this page. It cannot be used across pages. So what do I do for that, right? Simple. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the solution now. So we just saw first type, that is a local helper. Not many people know this, but there is a folder called where's the add. Let me zoom in. So there's a folder called ASP.NET folder called app underscore code, right? So all I've done now is I've created an app underscore code folder, right? And then inside this, I'm going to go and then say add new item, and go to web, go to MVC, and then I'm going to create an CSHTML file, right? I'm going to call this as global HTML or HTML5 helpers. Okay, I'm going to call it as global HTML5 helpers.cshtml. Of course, Visual Studio by default goes ahead and then puts this HTML. This is not what I want. Now, just to showcase that everything will work the same, I'm going to copy the same helper we wrote inside this global HTML5 helpers.cshtml. I'm going to paste it as is, no changes. Okay. So now what will happen is, how do I use it? Correct. Now there is a local helper called video, but what if in some other page you want to use this global HTML5 helpers.cshtml, right? So the way you use that is, let me create one more column here, and I'm going to bring these guys back to wherever they were. And here I'm going to say this is 300 by 300. Now notice we have put it inside global HTML5 helpers.chhtml. If you do an @ and then say global, okay, what I need to do is app underscore code global HTML5 helpers.chhtml, and now if I say global, just give me a second. Visual Studio just stopped figuring out that I have a page called global. Let me change the name and then see. Looks like the global word, it didn't like it. So I'm going to say uh, G HTML5 helpers.cshtml. Yes. Now I'm going to come in and then say G. Yeah. Oh, now I got the global HTML5 helpers. Not sure what is happening, but no, it didn't get it now. Yeah, there you go. So Visual Studio is taking time to figure out all my types since I pasted into the app underscore code. This is Visual Studio 2015. It does Roslyn compilation, everything. So it's taking time to figure out what is happening. So if you see here, now the index.cshtml, the ghtml5 helpers.cshtml that we kept in app underscore code is available to us as as a kind of a namespace now. If you see here, now I can actually go in and say this dot. Notice what I get. I get my video tag here, and then notice it also has the complete stuff that we provided. It says ghtml5 helpers.video, string ID, MP4, WebM, and notice these are all optional because if you don't pass, they kind of have the default values to null or true or integer 200, 200, all those things. Now I can come back here and then do the same stuff. Let me pull this guy back in and I get the video tag. So I'm going to call this as my video 2. It's still it's the same movie, but I kept it to 300, 300. So let me zoom out. Now when I run this, we will see two video tags. The first one is a local helper. The second one is actually the global helper that we have. Let's give it a couple of more seconds and then yeah, there we go. So we see this, there are two videos now. The first one is a local helper. The second one is the new global HTML5 helper that we did. Well, with this, what happens is, let me stop it. So now within your project, anybody who needs to use a video tag, they can actually go ahead and then do this at the rate ghtml5 helpers dot video. So G for global, that's just a hack that I'm doing. But some naming, you can name it according to your project guidelines and then keep it. But the point here is now any any view pages can get this video tag. This is fine, but what if you want to do it across your organization? Meaning I want to create the helper within my organization and then everybody should share it. Like, I will have my own team which keeps building very regularly whatever we need. Those kind of helpers we want to build it. For example, this video tag. What if some other ASP.NET project also wants to use this, right? So there's one way to do this. What I can do is I can come in here, create a new folder. So now we have seen two types of creating the helpers. So I'm going to create a folder called helpers, and I'm going to add a class file. I'm going to call this as static HTML5 helpers, right? The idea is now what you can do is you can just come in here and then say public class static HTML5 helpers and then create a public static MVC HTML string. So I'll talk about this in a moment. Let me get this auto correction, auto completion, and then you can just say video. And now you can actually go and then do the same what do you call parameters on this one now. But now I can imagine I have created this inside a folder here. You do not need to do that. What you can do is you can create your own library or basically an assembly and then put this inside that, because now it's just a simple class. And wherever you have to use it, you just have to say @static helpers HTML5 helpers dot video. So let me paste this. So I'm going to use the same thing: string ID, string MP4 path, string WebM path, OGB, NeedControls in, blah, 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 all those things, the same thing. Now it needs, let me just put a return new MVC HTML string. For now, we'll just say string.empty and we'll do that. And then my squigglies will go away. Now, why you need a MVC HTML string is, if you pass a plain string from this guy, what will happen is when rendering, the MVC engine will go ahead and then do a, kind of a, what do we call? It's going to do your lesser thans, your writer thans, all those will be converted into ampersand LT, ampersand GT. I don't want that to happen because HTML thinks, or the ASP.NET Razor engine thinks that, oh, he's trying to put a string, let me encode it. It will go ahead and encode it. But if I say, hey, no, I don't want you to do that. Put the string as is. So that's why I'm saying, hey, put the MVC HTML string as is, right? So now, in order to get going, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say string builder. Um, Tag builder is equal to new string builder, and now what I will do is I'll go back to this index, or let me come back. I just need the video tag, so let me copy this or cut this, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say tag builder dot append format. So I'm going to say append format, and I'm going to pull this guy here, video. I'm going to start with the double quotes, and then controls is where we need the placeholder. So I will say 0, or we'll start with the ID first. So I'll say ID is equal to, I'll keep a placeholder, and then let's say we need the width, so I'll keep the width. I need the height, I'll keep the height, and then I'll keep a placeholder for controls, and then I need a, or I'll put the append line later. So now all I need to do is provide values for these placeholders. So I know I have the ID, I know I have the width, I know I have the height, right? Now for the controls, what I can do is I can do a tertiary operator here, wherein I can say like, hey, need controls, then just do controls is equal to controls. Otherwise, just do an empty string. What happened? Oh, right. And then I'll say tag builder dot append line. Now, I don't like doing a string dot empty, right? Okay, what I'm going to quickly do is I'm going to create my own extension class. So I'm going to say add class, and I will call this as string extensions. So here all I need to do is public static class string extension, and then I'm going to say public static bool is null or empty, and I'm going to say this string source, right? This is just to shortcut that particular thing, otherwise we do. So I'll just say return string dot is null or empty source, right? Now what I can do is I can say using this helpers inside my static helpers, I'll say using, and come back here and then say something like this. Why is the squigglies here? Okay, that's fine. So I'll say it, if mp4 path dot is null or empty, if not, sorry about that, if not, then I need to do a tag builder dot append format. And what's the format? Format is this guy. So I'll come back here, put a double quotes, pull this guy left. I know the source. The source is basically, let's put a placeholder here, right? And the type is anyway is already there. And now I need to pass the mp4 path. That's it. So now once we have this, we can just go replicate this for 3 more times. And what I have here is webm.path. Oh, sorry. And then I have the OGV path, right? And instead of, it's gonna be video.webm here, and this will be webm. And just bear with me with my typing. And here I'm going to say OGV path, and looks like we will be done. So the last one that we need to do is I need to append the line, and I need to say append. So we need the closing tag of the video. So we just do this and we'll just do an append line again. Next, the last what we need to do is, we just need to pass the tag builder strings here, tag builder dot toString, and then that's it. So now what we did was we created a static helper, right? And then we are returning an MVC safe string. Now, how do I use this? Just go back to the index.html. Let me create one more column here. And in order to use this, you will need to say using custom dot helpers. So that's the namespace under which I just created the that particular thing. So now what happens is it can be in any assembly. You can just come back and then use that assembly in your MVC project, and then you can say @ using whatever namespace you guys have used it there, and then come back here and then say static. Notice here. Okay, let me zoom it correctly. And I'm going to do this. See what happened? I get my static HTML5 helpers. This is the class that we just now created, right? I'm going to go do this, and then I'm going to say video. So what video? We'll say my video 3, and it's the same thing, right? bbb.mp4. Instead of width 300, I'm going to say 350, just to make sure that we know there is a difference going on, and this will be 352. Right? I'm going to say just this much, and let me zoom out, and there you go. So in order to make sure we understand what we are having, so let me just put a labels here. So I will say this is a local helper, and let's put a break here, and this is a global helper, and this one is a static helper, right? Now I'm going to run this. Now what should happen is we should see 3 videos, of course, right? There's nothing great about that, but you get to see what we are trying to do. Yeah, there's a question, can't we use a tag builder? You can. There's nothing stopping you. MVC has a tag builder, so you can pretty much use the tag builder, create the tag opening, tag closing. But for the demo, it's easier for me to just go put the string and then just do it. In fact, tag builder internally would go ahead and then do everything for you. You just saying tag builder.open, here's the tag, and then attributes and all those things. So basically those things. So now as you can see here, the static helper is giving you the 350 by 350. If you see, we put it to 350. I get the same things, right? Now what we have done is we can now go ahead and then put this inside an assembly and then maybe use it across organization, all those things. So you can now share that assembly with different projects and say, hey, if you ever have a need for HTML5 video, take a look at our particular helper that we have, make use of that. And then of course, if you update it, everybody gets whatever updated feature that you added. But we have a problem. I don't like this @static HTML5 helpers.video. Somebody was asking in the questions panel, right? Isn't this @html.video? In fact, there is nothing called @html.video. So that's what the whole premise of this webinar is. There is nothing called @HTML video. So let's take a look at, let me zoom in. And this is the pure HTML helper now. So if I go to html.v, well, we don't have a video, right? We don't have it, so we don't have a video. So let's now go, and it would be nice to see that, right? Now if I put it like this, so similar, my video 4, and then this will be move underscore bbb dot mp4, and let's keep it at 200 for now. So this will be cool, right? So I am now inside whatever standard helpers way of doing my own custom helper. So I will be writing a custom helper called video, but this is going to be pretty similar to what the standard HTML helpers are already there. So let's see now how to do that, right? So this is possible through something known as extensions. So you need to create an extension method for HTML helper, because this guy @HTML is actually an HTML helper. Take a look at this. If I do mouse over on HTML, he says HTML helper. So the type of this HTML is a a class known as HTML helper. So I can now go back and then write an extension method which acts on this HTML helper. So what I do is I'll come back here and then add a new class, and I will call this as HTML5 extensions. Now let me come back here and I'll say public static class HTML extension, and I'll say public static MVC HTML string, and we call this as video. And here we're going to say this HTML helper. No, don't do that. So I'll say this HTML helper, and we will say helper, right? And then of course we can pretty much pass the same whatever parameters that we have, the string ID, that, this, everything, correct? So now we can pretty much replicate the same thing. Don't worry, I'm just replicating it to make a point here. You don't need to do the replication. You can actually do whatever way you want to do it, like use a tag builder or keep this whole logic in another helper method or whatever it is. But the point I'm trying to make here is, this is how you can create now your own custom thing. So notice here what Visual Studio 2015 is able to do. Remember in the index.html I had put @html.video. It already is saying that, hey, this video has one reference. That reference is actually index.cshtml line number 204. It is using html.video. So that's as cool as it can get. Somebody is saying, this is not the way, but yeah, what the point I'm trying to make here is, this is one of the ways you can do it. That is the string builder method. You can use a tag builder. It's up to you, whichever way you are easier. With the very limited time, in order to make it faster coding, this is the way I've gone ahead and then do it, and then nothing wrong in that. So now I can come back here in the index.cshtml, and then I can say html.video. So let me show you that. Let me zoom in, and I can say html.video. Take a look at this. Now it says it's an extension method. Do you see the everything coming up here? Notice this icon here. It says a down arrow. That means it's an extension method. Since we wrote an extension method, now we can say @html dot, and then we will be able to see that. So now I can just come back here. Let me zoom out and then Control Z, and I'm going to keep it as is. In order to differentiate, I will say width colon 400, height colon 400, just to make sure we see a difference. So now I'm going to do an F5. And as I said, you will be able to get that, right? If you see here, I'm getting the, I said it as, yeah, it's an HTML helper. So we do get, so there's a local helper, global, static, and then HTML helper. So somebody is saying, why don't you make the static class, whatever this as a static class, and then I'll get it. But the thing is, if you don't make, so you will never get html.video until unless you tell that this is an extension method, until unless you write this particular piece of code here. This method will never be seen on this type, right? If I go back to my static HTML5 helper, this is a static method. This will never come up on HTML dot, and then you will never get that, right? That's the whole point of what I'm trying to show here as a static helper, as an extension helper. So these are the different ways you can do it. That's the crux of this particular webinar that we are trying to do. That is letting you know that there are different ways of doing things, right? So if you see here, you will always have to use it like this. If you create a static helper, this video method will never come on HTML because it's not an extension. Whereas I'm able to get my custom video method on the HTML because I told this guy to be an extension to HTML helper. Okay, now I think you guys have got it. Now this is fine, but I don't like this also. Let me show you guys our Kendo ASP.NET MVC product that we have. So in ASP.NET, we provide a package or a control set known as Kendo UI, or UI for ASP.NET MVC. So if you take a look at here, notice what we are doing. We are doing html.kendo.autocomplete.name.filter.placeholder.bind to. Right, this is fantastic. I know what I'm putting on the control. On the autocomplete, I'm saying like, hey, autocomplete. I'm saying like, Kendo, I need you to place an autocomplete control. Its name will be countries. The filter method it should look for is starts with, or it should use is starts with. The placeholder it should keep is select country, and then the data it will have is these guys, right? So this is known as method chaining. This is not new. This has always been there. Somebody calls it as fluent interface. Somebody says that fluent extensions. Somebody calls it as method chaining. So our currying is also another popular word that we typically employ. I used to have a friend. I have a friend who wrote about this like 3 years, 4 years back. He said currying in C#. I'm like, what the hell is this? So he said nothing. You just you just chain your methods. You curry. Basically, what you're doing is you keep on chaining. You kind of keep doing a curry here, right? With all the other properties that you have. So it's known as currying or chaining method chaining or fluent interfaces, all those things. So let's see how to do this. So what I want is, I know that I need an HTML, I need a video, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop this. So what I will do is I'll come back here and I'm going to do this way. Dot mp4 and dot width, and I'll say dot height, and we give the height, and also I'll have dot controls true or a false. Notice how cool this looks like, right? I know that I'm putting a video tag, and I know that I have an mp4 path. I know that width is this, height is this, controls is this. So this is what we're going to build in next 2 or 3 minutes. Okay, so you will have to bear with me for a couple of typings that I need to do, because what I need to do is I'm going to go ahead and then create a class here, and I'm going to say class, and I will say video. So I'm creating a video class now, right? So I'm going to say public class video, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to inherit this from something called as HTML string. Why? Because we need this to be safe string. Right, so I have the HTML string, so let me go and then implement this guy. So implement interface. So this interface, all it needs is one specific thing which says to HTML string, and I will say return new HTML string, and let's keep it like this for now. I'll say string.empty for now, not throw, it's return. Right now, bear with me with my typing now. So private string underscore id underscore mp4 path underscore webm path underscore what else need ogv path. Then I need a private bool underscore controls. Then I need private int underscore width underscore height, right? And then I'm going to create a So I'm going to create a constructor here which will expect you to pass the ID. So I'm going to say string ID, and I'll set this underscore ID is equal to ID. So just bear with me. I need to write a lot of coding now. Now here's a chain that I'm going to do. So I'm going to say public instead of, so I'm going to say public return me an instance of video, and I'm going to say mp4, and the string that you're going to have is mp4 path. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say this dot underscore mp4 path is equal to mp4 path, right? And then instead of doing nothing, I'm going to return an instance of this. Okay, so the currying or the chaining is nothing but every method returns an instance of the object, so this is webm, and so that you can have any other method work on it. So I'm just going to say webm and return this, right? And similarly I'm going to do ogv here, and bear with me, ogv path. So this is ogv path. Usually I'll have snippets, but today I said, let me type it out. So then we just need to create a couple of more, and this is controls, bool controls, and I'm going to set controls. I know Visual Studio says, that this keyword is redundant. I know it's just a practice that I have. And we need two more, and that is int and width. Sorry, the width. So I need the int here, the width here. So this will be @width, and this will be width. Return this, and this will be height, and this is height again. And there we go. So now comes the interesting part. So notice here we have this two HTML string. Oh, bool, no, it's an int. Okay, thank you, Visual Studio. So now what we need to do is we need to build this again, this whole, the tag builder thing that we need to do. We need to create that here. So what I will do is I'll borrow our, whatever we have done here. So I'm just gonna paste it here. And okay, I just need to do an underscore everywhere, and this will be underscore controls, and I'm gonna do this, and then here underscore here, and then I think we're done. So we'll say tag builder dot toString. Right now what we have done is we have just, okay, what happened? Return new HTML string to string. Who is returning a string? Oh, okay. Dot to HTML string. So the HTML string method has this two HTML string, so you will need to do that. Then now, I mean, all we have done is we created a class video. It is inheriting from my HTML string, and then the only change we have done is the setters are all like a method. You say mp4, and then you set it, and then you return the instance, the object, right? Now, how do we go ahead and then use this guy, right? So let me come back to HTML5 extensions. I don't think I can create the same video tag here. I need a different, let me create a new class file. So I'm going to say HTML5 Fluent extensions, right? Just to create a different namespace. That's it. Otherwise, I will see the same thing. And then public class, a static class, this. Now, here's interesting thing. So if you notice what I'm going to do, it's not going to be what we did earlier. So now so we already have video on the HTML helper. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say public static. Notice what I'm changing here. I'm not returning an MVC string. Rather, I'm returning in a video type. And I just want to say fluent video, just to give a different, or we'll say f video or something. Let it be there. So what this will be is, this is again an extension method to HTML helper. Right? This is not going to change. So this particular piece, the method is going to be this HTML helper. Instead, I'm going to just pass a string ID now, right? And in this method, all I'm going to do is return new video. Notice our constructor takes an ID. I'm just going to do this. That is all you need to do in order to create a Fluent extension based HTML helper, custom HTML helper, which is a Fluent extension or a Fluent interface or a method chaining way. Now, if I come back here to index.html, And let me zoom in. And if I do a dot here, we should see Fluent video coming. There we go. So we now have created a Fluent interface based custom HTML helper for our video tag, right? So now what I can do with this, I just have to do this. html.fluentvideo.mp4. Oh, let me zoom it this way. .mp4 .width. Okay, let me do one by one. I think you guys are not getting what is happening. So let me do this. So let me come back from first. So now we created that Fluent extension, right? So I'm going to say Fluent video. Of course, I need to pass the ID for that. So my video is what? How we already have 1, 2, 3. How many videos we have? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, this is the fourth one. Okay. So my video 4, right? Now I don't have to pass anything. Rather, I'm going to come into the next line and I'm going to say .mp. Oh, not. Hang on. .mp4. So take a look at this. What is it saying? It says pass me the mp4 path. So I'm going to say mp4 and I will say mov underscore bbb.mp4. Well, this is done, and then I want a different width. So I'm going to say this is 450 and I need the height, and I'll say 450. And for a change, I'm going to say, hey, you know what? I don't want the controls, and I'm going to pass the false. Right? That's it. Done. We are done with our Fluent way of thing. Now, what is happening is, remember we created the class called video, and then we said HTML string, right? Since what is happening is at the rendering time, the helpers will go, or the ASP.NET framework will go and then say, hey, you know what? You're an HTML string. Okay, give me your HTML string. They're going to go and invoke this two HTML string on the video, because remember what we did in the extension, we are just returning a instance of the video, but what I need is the HTML string out of this video. So basically the ASP.NET framework will go ahead and then say, hey, do you have an HTML string for yourself? I know you are a video, but what's your HTML string? That's when this particular HTML string will be called, and then notice what we have done. We just created the video tag out of the string, right? So now let's go back to the index.cshtml, and we're going to call it as Fluent HTML helper, and let me run. I'm crossing my fingers. Let's give Visual Studio a couple of minutes. I know we are 8 minutes overboard, so just give me, this is the last one. And Visual Studio seems to be stuck for a while, so let's give it a couple of more seconds. The builder succeeded. Looks like it's not getting the enough CPU times. Just give me a second. Yeah, my machine is literally cribbing. The web page will load in any moment, so just give it a couple of seconds. It looks like my machine has gone down with the memory. And we are back. And take a look at this, the Fluent HTML helper. It has come back, and notice I don't have notice what I don't have the controls. Why? Because I set controls to false, right? And notice all these guys have the controls. If I mouse over, you see the controls coming on the bottom, but I don't see this. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch it on to true, and let's come back and then refresh the page. And we have the controls. I can just keep playing it. Of course, you cannot hear the video, and you cannot see, you should see screenshot by screenshot kind of thing. Okay, somebody is asking, can you go through the code for the Fluent video once again? Okay, the idea here is you go ahead and then, so in our problem statement, we wanted to create a custom video tag. So what I did was I created a class called video, and you need to inherit it from HTML string, because when your helper needs to render the string, you need that to be a safe MVC string, right? So that's why I'm making use of the HTML string interface. All this interface does is it asks you to implement this method called toHTML string, and the ASP.NET MVC rendering engine is going to look for this method on your custom class. So on the video, I knew that I need to expose in the ID, MP4 path, WebM path, OGB path, controls, width and height. Yes, I've done that. And then in the constructor, I'm saying like I need you to pass me the ID of the video tag. So that's my contract that I'm writing. Then the important part here is when you create methods called as MP4 or WebM, you need to make sure you do a return this. So the return type of your methods will be the instance of the object. Okay, so if you see here, so this is the video tag, and then everywhere I'm using the video as a return. And then I'm doing return this, right? And then in the toHTML string, you need to make sure you compose the actual HTML that you need to that you need to render onto the page. So that's all I've done. I've used new HTML string, and then I've given the tag builder toString, and then I've said convert this to the HTML string. And then you need to go create an extension method. So here I have created a class called HTML5 Fluent Extensions. Oh, it took a CS also, that's fine. And then I have said public static video. Notice this, I did not say this is an MVC HTML string. Rather, I said this will return a instance of type video. And then this Fluent video method is actually an extension method for anybody whose type is HTML helper. And then I've said I need you to pass an ID, and then I'm just returning new video of ID. And then if you go and then look at the index.cshtml, you will say html.fluentvideo. Notice it expects you to pass an ID. Then since Fluent Video returned an instance of the video tag, I can do this because MP4 is a method on the video tag. Somebody is asking why I did not use MVC HTML string. Basically, MVC HTML string is a specific implementation. I don't need to use that. I went one level down. That is MVC HTML string internally has HTML string. So whichever way you want to work on that. So it's just that I'm just showing you different ways of using things. That's what this webinars are all about. One way, I'm going to show you other way. Then you go and then figure out, okay, which way is better. Okay, so that in fact brings us to the end of this webinar. So as I said, custom HTML helpers, we looked at @helper tag. We can use @helper in a local page, or we can use @helper in a global page. Then we looked at static HTML helpers. Then we looked at the extension methods. And then finally, we looked at how we can create the Fluent extension methods, right? So these are the ways you can create your own custom HTML helpers. Go play around it. Go do some research on these things, how this will help you, because I don't like people typing same things again and again and again. So encapsulate it, keep it in one place, and then maybe when it comes to changes, you will be happy that, okay, we did that, because you just need to change it in one place. With that, I'm going to end this webinar. I'm going to stop the recording, and then I'll take up the question and answers. So thank you very much for each one of you to have made it to this webinar. I hope you learned something new. I hope this 1 hour was well spent, and we look forward to you in our future webinars. If you look at your chat window, there is already a link pasted, which is basically the announcement link of the future webinar. So basically, we have in July 4 webinars going up. So next week we have another webinar, then we follow it up with next week, then again. So all 4 weeks of July we have webinars. So I look forward to you again, and thank you very much, and then have a great weekend ahead. So let me stop the recording now.